Well, it's Thursday, and you all know what that means. As you probably know, we have Ring of Honor, of course, featuring the main event, a proving ground match for the ROH World title. Bandito faces off against Angelico. The real question we ask ourselves, can Angelico survive the 10 minutes or try to beat Bandito for a guaranteed shot of the Ring of Honor World title? Well, we'll see how things will go, and we have plenty other matches as well. Then we move on with TNA. As you all know, they're on the road to Slammiversary, one of the biggest shows of the year, of course. A lot of battle lines are being drawn, as you know. The real question is who will be facing for the TNA World title against Mike Santana. That's going to be a very interesting question. But however, of course, feuds with the system and people who dealt with them continues on. The Righteousness are feeling good about their so-called win against, of course, the Hardys and plenty other things. But we'll see how things will go from there as we head to Slammiversary. And then, as always, we wrap up our episode, as usual, with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Leaded Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Leaded Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. In a world wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do some real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of these reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the jibber jabbers, let's get to it. So, let's begin with Ring of Honor. Right, Ring of Honor. We opened up a tag team action. We have the premier athletes, Tony Nese and Arya Daivari, with no story Denali being involved. They face off against Top Flight, being accompanied by Christopher Daniels. But before we started, well, as you know, Sparkmore Sterling is calling the match that happened with the Rascal a crime, that there's going to be investigation. I'm like, the guy is a total moron because he lied about his injured arm because he got taken out. This is what happens to it. But however, of course, in this match, one thing I did like, that idiot Sterling tried to get involved, but thank God for CB for clobbering him out of the way. But however, there was a miscue between Daivari and Nese, nothing too major, of course, but it was a double team onto Daivari that allowed, of course, for the win thanks to Darius Martin. 1, 2, 3, done. Now, we did see a bit of a video promo from Angelico talking about, of course, Bandito and his time, as you know, as a veteran. Because, as you know, he will be in a proving ground match for the ROH World title, which is something I'm sure Angelico is ambition for. So we'll see how things will go from there. Now, our next match, we have the Colones and Serpentico, as you know, teaming up. They face against the former ROH World Six-Man Tag Team Champions, the Infantry, Carly Bravo, and, of course, Sean Dean, along with Shane Taylor, together known as Shane Taylor Promotions. Well, of course, I have to say they put up a hell of a fight. But, however, of course, Shane Taylor Promotions are trying to prove their dominance, saying they are the most dangerous group of ever. Because, of course, they recently made their beeline to prove that the Death Riders are done. It's no longer their domain. But, of course, this ended with Serpentico being taken out by a package pile driver by Shane Taylor. 1, 2, 3, done. Then we have, of course, Mason Madden taking on Teriyaki. Now, of course, this match, I figured it was going to end with Mason Madden. And it did when he put him in a big elbow drop, and just like that, 1, 2, 3 is over. However, Mason's Madden tag team partner, MXM Collection, Mansoor, was trying to put out an open challenge, and the person answered that challenge was none other than Ace Austin of the Bang Bang Gang. Well, apparently, the match was pretty good. I have to say it was a very impressive matchup, but of course, Ace Austin picked up the win by applying the fold, and just like that, 1, 2, 3 was over. But we did see Mansoor come out with a towel, not realizing that his tag team partner just lost a singles match. So I thought it was very interesting to see. Now, we did see Gia Miller talking to Zeta Steel along with Christopher Daniels, because she will be teaming up with Red Velvet to take on the Inspiration, who, as we all know, are a tag team. They have been together for many years, and that's something that I'm sure that we all want to see. And that's where it leads to our next match involving that, the Inspiration taking on Zeta Steel and Red Velvet. Now, of course, many of us would have assumed in some capacity that the Inspiration would have picked up the win due to their years of being together, and not to mention, of course, Red Velvet and Zeta Steel are a makeshift team. You would have assumed they would have picked up the fall, but they pretty much did everything. However, Zeta Steel really impressed me when she took out both Cassie Lee and Jessie McCain in some weird move, and she pinned Cassie Lee, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Steel and Velvet picked up the win. Now, our next match, we have Soleil taking on, of course, Action Andretti. Well, Andretti, of course, as you know, tried to use the referee to get what he wants, and that's exactly what he did until he applied the torture rack neck breaker, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, we did see an interview with Top Flight and Christopher Daniels. As you know, there is one thing that the Top Flight wants, is the Ring of Honor World Tag Team belts. They're fully aware that Sammy and Beast Mortos have been unable to defend them here due to Beast Mortos' visa issues, but regardless, they are aiming for the tag team belts, and that's something they have to figure it out. Now, we did see Robin Renegade taking on Billy Starks. Billy Starks took her out with, of course, a hammerlock pile driver, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, our next match, we have the Workhorsemen taking on Eddie Kingston and Ortiz. A battle of the brawls between these guys. It was a hoss fight, but it was in fact a great combination that took out, of course, Anthony Henry by Eddie Kingston with the DDT, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Our next match is ROH World Title Proving Ground match, Angelico versus Bandito. Now, of course, Angelico throughout this entire match scouted the 21 plex, and this was something that, of course, Bandito has to realize he cannot use at all. That's something that, of course, someone like Angelico would definitely try to scout and dodge. But however, Bandito applied the Hurricanrana, which was a bit more effective. 1, 2, 3, just like that, over. So that's pretty much what happened in Ring of Honor. So we can't wait to see what's going to happen as we go. But as of right now, let's move on to our last and final review, TNA. Okay, TNA. We opened up, of course, with the TNA World title on the line. Now, as you all know, we're on the road to Slammiversary. It's their version of course, of WrestleMania, in case anybody asked. Now, however, we opened up with the TNA World title on the line. If you all recall, a couple of weeks ago, Eric Young won in #1 contendership. However, Mike Santana was supposed to face Eric Young, but of course, Daria decided to say, nope, it's not going to happen. You're facing Steve Maclin. So basically, that's what it was. However, of course, in this way, Eric Young, as you know, he's on a crusade to cleanse TNA of people who are nothing but fakers, of course, and Mike Santana is one of them, from his own point of view. However, Eric Young was attempting to apply his own banner tricks to ensure he gets what he wants. He crushed the referee, but of course Mike Santana applied the spin the block onto him, but apparently the ref was out. However, he actually intended to use the belt without anybody noticing it. Then he pile drive them through it. That was the idea, what he wanted. However, when he was attempting to do the deed, well, apparently things didn't go according to plan for him, because he thought he cleansed Ricky Sosa, and he's back for a vengeance. And of course, this led for Mike Santana to roll him up, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, he retained the title. However, of course, in the post-match, Nick Bennett decided to, of course, say that he's calling his shot at the Slammiversary. So basically, he's challenging Mike Santana for the TNA World title at Slammiversary. So he's going to do it the right way. Now, in the past, we have seen wrestlers try to call their shot in the middle of as soon as the match was over. So that kind of sets it up right there. Now, during an interview, of course, Mustafa Ali, of course, along with Order 4, called Nick Bennett that he's a total moron, saying that he rat for being honorable, that sort of thing. But however, he has one thing in mind, and that's Casey Navarro, because as you know, during the Champions Challenge, he thinks that Casey Navarro defeated him by a fluke, and that was the whole point. So he is going to defend the TNA International title in the main event, so we'll get to that. Our next match, we have Mr. Elegance, of course, taking on Elijah. Now, of course, as you know, Elijah has been receiving cease and desist by AJ Francis. This allowed, of course, for the distraction to claim, and Mr. Elegance, of course, to pinned Elijah, and just like that, it was over. But however, of course, Mr. AJ Francis decided to show up and decided to claim that everything is about money, 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 until, of course, Elijah had enough and decided to give, of course, AJ Francis an ass whooping. However, of course, Mr. Elegance decided to celebrate in hope of his so-called victory, but nope, apparently there's an old saying, payback's a bitch. Apparently, of course, Li Yingling, who supposed to defeat her thanks to the distraction by the Elegance brand and Zaya Brookside, let's just say she hasn't forgotten, so she humiliated him completely. And then, of course, Zaya Brookside showed up, tried to beat her up, but apparently that came into a failure. So we'll see them in Slammiversary. Now, Nick Bennett was talking to Casey Navarro about what happened during that match after the opening of the show with the TNA World title thing. So Casey Navarro respects him in that fashion. However, of course, Ryan Bennett, being like the jealous brother that he is, because he feels like Casey Navarro is taking a spot. And then we did see Mike Santana, but Casey said that he may need some little backup because he doesn't trust the Order 4, because we all know how they operate. Now, our next match is the System, consisting of Eddie Edwards and Cedric Alexander, taking on, of course, the Gladiator, Fabian Eichner, and Leon Slater. So as you know, Leon Slater still has an axe to grind against Cedric Alexander for not allowing him to break the record. And then, of course, we see the interference coming from Brian Myers and Bronson Reed, our current TNA World Tag Team Champions. But Eichner wiped them out, and then, of course, Leon Slater tried everything to take out, Alexander, but he applied of course, the lumbar check, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, later became a numbers game, the 4-on-2 type of scenario, until Moose showed up. So as you know, he still has some unfinished business with the System. Now, Santino Marella, as you know, he felt relieved that he can finally move on from what's happening, but he's no idiot. He knows for a fact The Ariana Grace and Stax are going to return, but the one thing he knows, he can't stand Stax for manipulating his daughter. But however, he did receive a bit of a visit from Indy Hartwell. As you know, Indy, as you know, did him a favor. So now she is aiming, of course, for the one thing in mind, and that is the TNA Knockouts World title. Now, she is fully aware that the moment she could have had in Slammiversary has passed, but she is looking for a chance to prove herself that she deserves a shot of this. So basically, there's going to be a match between her and Elena Black. I think this could be like more of a #1 contendership. I'm not 100% sure, but yes. Now, as you all know, the Righteousness, they claim that they obliterated, obsolete, of course, the Hardys. And of course, Santino Marella shows up, telling him that you're right. The Garden Wicked was one of the most absolute brutal matches ever. However, he did state it, they do have an opportunity for the TNA World Tag Team belt. However, he did indicate that the Hardys do have a consensual rematch for the TNA World Tag Team titles. However, this will happen in a ladder match in, of course, Slammiversary. But of course, Vincent of the Righteous goes, hey, didn't you hear what I say? The Hardys are done. And then the lights turned off and you heard, yep, that's right. That little laugh from the Hardys. And all of a sudden, when the lights turned off, a ladder was there. So basically, I think the Righteousness might have got celebrated way too soon to think they obliterated the Hardys. But the real question is, what are their plans now? But if I was the Righteousness, I would not leave my guard down, because that's going to be their downfall from there. Now, our next match is the Elegant Brands, Ash, Heather, and M, along with the Chihuahua and Mr. Elegance, taking on Ali, Rosemary, and Mara Shade. Now, of course, Mr. Elegance, being the little party pooper that he is, decided to get involved and have all three ladies to beat up, of course, Mara Shade. As you know, Mara Shade had enough of the Elegance Brands with their business, of course, getting involved. But the one thing that was funny, apparently Ash by Elegance got a voodoo doll. First she was like, grabbing by the hair, then putting her nose in her finger in the nose, and then doing dance and all that. And of course, Ali bite her in the butt. So basically, it was all voodoo stuff. But in the end, of course, it was Mara Shade with the code breaker onto Heather, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it's over. So the real question is, are they still going to continue to haunt the Elegant Brands? Because if I were them, I would say it's not over with them, but we'll see. Our main event, of course, is the TNA International Championship. Casey Navarro steps up his game to take on Mustafa Ali. I thought the match was pretty good, but of course, when it comes to Mustafa Ali, all the four are right there watching and making sure this match goes in his favor. But unfortunately, he ended up on the wrong side of the shooting star press until, of course, he tapped out. But of course, Mustafa Ali decided that he's going to punish him some more, because he was not going to let that loss dictate him, saying it never happened. But of course, Nick Bennett along with Mike Santana showed up. Now, once the dust is clear, getting rid of the Order of 4, well, Nick Bennett just super kicked Mike Santana. So you can tell this kind of thing kind of is setting up the boundaries, what we're expecting. So we'll see what happens as we move forward, as we head to Slammiversary. But as of right now, we're done with reviews. Let's move on with some news updates. Alright, so welcome to our news updates. So let's talk about upcoming events, starting with some GCW updates from them. As you know, we got the Hartford, Connecticut event, You Only Die Once, on the 11th of July, and they just announced a match that would be taking place, Slade versus Viperous. And then, of course, the following day, making their debut in Manchester, New Hampshire for Melee in Manchester on the 12th of July, the Megasis Megan Bain will take on Marcus Mathers. Now, as you all know, a new show was mentioned on August 1st in Minneapolis, of course, and it's called The Rude Awakening. And they just put on names who will be participating. our current GCW World Champion Atticus Cogar, Bear Bronson, Shotzi Blackheart, and of course, Busta and the Brain. Now, on to some produced updates, of course. As you know, we got the very first show on the 29th of July, Volume 1, The Octopus. They just announced Zack Sabre Jr. will take on Darian Bankston, so that's going to be good. And then, of course, we got Volume 2 taking place, Tiger Style, that will be happening on the 16th of July. They just announced Fred Rosser will take on Effie, first time ever. And then we have the Pro Do It event that will take place on the 26th, making their appearance in Montreal. They just announced Super Smash Brothers, of course, or as we know them, Dark Order, the OGs, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson will take on Fresh Air. Now we got the Wrestling Revolver event, No Country for Old Mansour, taking place on the 12th, of course. Ace Austin makes his return. Then we have, of course, the House of Glory show Inferno in Chicago on the 19th of June. Nick Bennett makes his appearance. Then we got, of course, absolute intense wrestling with Absolution 19 taking place in Cleveland on July 10th. Two Stardom talents have been announced for this one, and that is, of course, Rana Yagami, who is our future Stardom champion, and, of course, Azuki. Now, more as you know, there's that collaboration. There's the Enjoy Wrestling that will be making their first appearance, of course, taking place on July 7th, called Best for Business, and names have been mentioned for this event. They announced, of course, Nick Gage, Stardom's very own Azuki, the Bollywood Boys, Darius Castle, TMB, and Danny Mo. There'll be more names they'll be mentioning very soon. Then we have the ETU Wrestling, of course, for Summer Madness on the 25th of July. They announced the Coastal Crown Championship will be on the line. The current champion, Gabby Forza, will defend it against Janai Kai. Then we have finally, of course, Pandemonium Pro Wrestling with a new show, and it will be debuting in Texas on August 2nd. No names have been mentioned for that just yet. Now on to some developments. Now, many of you may have heard stories about certain wrestlers in WWE that were either released or left after the contracts were done, that, of course, Triple H has been ignoring them. Well, apparently Killer Kross is now amongst those who Triple H, as you know, ignored him or avoided him, whatever. So this is what he said. It did not bother him, but I was just trying to tell myself that there was a thing going on that was so strange that might not occur to you. Then that perhaps he's no longer in position to speak, to tell anymore once they exit, because I'm not isolated in an isolated situation. It's not that I was throwing shade at him, but I don't think anyone understands the nature of his position. Everyone just thinks he's just the boss and nothing is attached to that. But I think there's a whole lot new hierarchy of those above him that he has to answer to. Perhaps maybe even told not to contact their talent afterwards, maybe. But it did bother me. I will tell you, it bothered me very, very much. So yeah. So Killer Kross is one of the latest people that were mentioned about that. The Triple H didn't even bother talking to him. I know that MVP mentioned he tried to talk to him, but he refused. He hasn't even spoken to him. Now, there was a bit of a rumor circulating about Tomoka Inaba, of course. The situation, as you all know, she is part of GTO. She was trained under Taka Michinoku, of course, and there's been talk that Tomoka Inaba will be exiting GTO and maybe going as a regular in Stardom. Now, we have been seeing her in Stardom a lot. You know, she has made championship matches before there. She is part of God's Eye, that sort of thing. So we'll see what happens. If she does make the leave to go to Stardom, then she's on the right path for herself. Now, Drilla Moloney, as you know, decided to remain with New Japan, but he kind of gave his reasons why, and this is what he mentioned. I feel unique connection to the Japanese fan base and the country as a whole. I never expected to become as beloved and accepted by Japan as I have been. So I guess I have this overwhelming sense of gratitude that made it hard to leave. Don't get me wrong, I miss Gabe, Clark, and Finn, but I had to figure out this part on my journey out by myself, and I felt like wasn't the right time to think about leaving Japan. So yes, so he loves the culture. I mean, we have seen wrestlers that say that all the time, and I think he felt like his time is not done yet. So we'll probably see him more there. Now, many of you may have heard about Maya World. According to this information, Maya World was supposed to take some time off after the loss of her brother, but however, as you know, Maya World took the position of the open spot with Sri, who of course was not medically cleared. According to this, from what I'm hearing, that her brother died and she decided to stay because, as it was reported, that her brother was the one who introduced her to wrestling and she wanted to honor him in the best way possible. So I have to say it's very touching, but very sad to hear what happened in her personal life, especially with her brother. So, but we'll see how things go with her. We know she just recently won her match against Sky Blue and advances into the semifinals to face against her mentor. We'll see how things go from there. But right now, we are done with everything. Let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, of course, I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to decide if I'm going to do that. There's a part of me that's telling me I should just take the Friday off, but I don't know. I'm not up for that yet, of course. But we'll see. We'll leave things as it is, and we'll move forward. We'll see. So until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I'm going to bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day.